Hello everyone, myself Dr. Vineet Kumar, Department of Zoology, the Cochin College. Welcome to the fourth session of Prawn Structural Diversity, the circulatory system. The circulatory system of Penaeus is an open type or a lacuna type of circulatory system. Means the blood in most of the time it flows through open channels called as sinuses or lacunae. These sinuses or lacunae are nothing but open spaces seen in their body. And the difference between a sinus and a lacunae in arthropod is that a sinus is an open space which is filled with the hemocoelic fluid, but that space will be lined by the endothelium. And lacunae is just a space which is filled with the hemocoel, which does not have any lining. It will be lined by the body wall. So these are basically spaces inside the body filled with hemocoel. They are just spaces. One is lined by endothelium, the other is not. That is the difference between a sinus and a lacunae. Coming to the circulatory system, the circulatory system of prawn consists of blood, heart, arteries, these sinuses and lacunae. The significant feature is that the capillaries and veins are absent in the circulatory system. Coming to the first component, blood or the hemolymph is a light blue fluid which is copper containing, which contains a copper containing pigment called as the hemocyanin in the plasma. The blood consists of plasma plus colorless amoeboid leukocytes. Hemoglobin and erythrocytes are absent. So these are the components of the blood. It mainly contains a plasma and amoeboid leukocytes. And in the plasma, the copper containing pigment hemocyanin is present, which gives the blood a very light blue color. Coming to the heart is triangular, as you can see in the diagram, and it lies dorsally in the posterior part of the thorax. It's seen in the thoracic region and the dorsal region towards the posterior side of the thorax. This heart is embedded in a coelomic. It is placed in a coelomic cavity, and which is called as the pericardial cavity or the pericardial sinus. The floor of this particular cavity where the heart is present, the floor of this particular sinus is a porous membrane which is called as the pericardium, and this membrane is contain many valvular openings. The blood flows to the pericardial cavity through these pores from the coelomic spaces below. So there are many, as we said, the heart lies in a coelomic cavity, the hemocoelic cavity, and the floor of the cavity is lined by a membrane or a porous membrane, and the porous membrane is valvular. Valvular in the sense the openings can be controlled when to open and when not to open, and blood flows through these pores into the pericardial cavity or the pericardial sinus. The heart in turn is having 5 pairs of valvular opening, which is shown in the diagram. The 5 pairs are shown in the diagram, 3 in this one, 3 in this, and the other 3 in this. The blood flows, the heart has 5 valvular opening. The openings are called as ostia, and it is through this opening the blood enters the heart. So from the pericardial, from the surrounding hemocoel, it enters the pericardial sinus through the valvular membrane. From the pericardial sinus through the valves in the heart, it enters the heart. So this is regarding the structural details of the heart. Coming to the arteries, there are several thin-walled arteries that take up blood from the heart. The arteries repeatedly branch to reach different parts of the body, and from there these arteries ultimately end in open blood sinuses. The blood from various parts of the body is collected by the structure is called as the ventral sinus. So ventral sinus is different from the other blood-filled cavities or blood-filled lacunae and sinus in the sense that it is an elongated sinus which is seen below the hepatopancreas and the floor of the thorax. And the feature of the ventral sinus, or the importance of the ventral sinus, is that it is to this ventral sinus all the other sinuses and lacunae meet. So all the sinuses drain their fluid, all the sinuses, all the lacunae in the body, they drain their fluid into this particular ventral sinus. From the ventral sinus, efferent brachial channels take up blood to the gills for oxygenation. Oxygenated blood move from the gills to the efferent brachial channels and to the pericardial sinus and back to the heart. So this is the flow of blood from the heart and back to the heart. So here we came across something which is called as brachial channels, efferent brachial channels, as well as efferent brachial channels. So we do not refer these channels as veins, because these particular brachial channels, they are not tubular. They are tube-like lacunae which do not have a particular wall. They are wall-less structures. They are just tubular lacunae. Normal lacunae, which we talked about earlier, they are just spaces. But when those spaces become tubular, they are called as channels. And these channels, the sinuses and the lacunae, these three components make the nervous system open type. Or these three components, or these three are the components which designate the not the nervous system, the circulatory system, to be open type. So we'll explain this particular chart of the flow of blood once again. So we said the heart, which is a triangular heart. From the heart, or heart, as we said earlier, it is lying in a cavity which is called as a pericardium, which is a pericardial sinus, which is having a membranous, or a membrane called as a pericardium, which is also porous, through which blood enters. And blood enters the sinus. From the sinus, blood enters the heart through valves which are present in the heart. From the heart, the blood is moving to the arteries, and arteries to different parts of the body, and they end in something which is called as the blood sinuses. From the blood sinuses, again the blood moves to blood lacunae. From the blood lacunae and the various blood sinuses, it reaches the ventral sinus. As we talk about, this is the ventral sinus, which takes blood back to the heart, after oxygenation in the gills. From the ventral sinuses, the ventral sinus, the blood is taken from the ventral sinus. It is taken by the efferent brachial channel. We described what is a channel, and that takes blood to the gills. In the gills, oxygenation occurs. Oxygenated blood moves through the efferent brachial channel to the pericardial sinus. It moves to the hemolymph cavity, which is beneath the pericardial sinus, enters the pericardial sinus through the pericardial and through the pericardial membrane, or the pericardium. It reaches back to the heart, and from heart, this oxygenated blood again moves to different organs, and then the cycle continues. So this is regarding the circulatory system in Penaeus. So we have seen the structure of the circulatory system, as well as how the circulatory system functions. Thank you.